I haven't inherited Rolexes, I haven't done anything fancy, but they both mean a lot to me, and they're both good watches. I opened my watch roll the other day and I realised 2 of these watches I hadn't actually paid for, and I haven't really spoken about. So I'm lucky that my granddad and my dad, both on the same side, have a bit of an interest in watches. Not to the extent I have them, but they both definitely have worn watches their whole lives. My dad recently got his first kind of luxury watch, which was really cool to see. There's probably a review of that coming, and there's some photos on my Instagram. It's a Bremont MB2. Really cool watch. I spec'd it out with him, and I actually just got him a NATO strap for it for his birthday, which was super cool. He's given me one watch a few years back, maybe when I was in college, which I really like. And then my granddad gave me a whole box of watches, and this G-Shock was in it. So I'm just going to tell the story of these watches and what they mean to me, because I think a lot of people have watches like these, and these aren't like, I haven't inherited Rolexes, I haven't done anything fancy, but they both mean a lot to me, and they're both good watches. They're nothing to be ashamed of. So I guess I want to encourage people to kind of, even if it's like your granddad's old Timex, which I know some people close to me have that kind of thing, share them, talk about them. It's really interesting stuff, I think. And that's what I'm going to do in this video with these 2. As I said, my granddad gave me this in kind of a discarded box of watches. I think it was like an ice cream tub, when he knew I was getting into watches when I was about 18 maybe. I'm 20 now. And this was not in as good a shape as it is now. It's still not, what's a G-Shock? It's not really perfect. It's been beaten up clearly. It's not a really old model. It's from, I think, 2010, if my research is correct. It's a module 3202 SGW-200H. So a very common round G-Shock. It's in better shape than I got it in, because I did want to put some time in. I'd just give it a bit of love. So I took the bezel off, took these side modules off. I believe they're called modules. I'm not a G-Shock person. Took the movement fully out, which was interesting, because I think it's the speaker which sits in this left-hand module, left-hand of the watch. The ribbon cable just came out, and I tried to unplug it, to be honest, and the cable just slipped out the plug. I then stuffed it back in promptly, and it worked fine. It still makes beeping sounds if you do. There we go. So it's working. I don't know what I've just done to the watch now. Altimeter. There we go. Back on time. But it's full day date. I think it's technically world time. I don't know much about this watch. I do actually have its instruction manual, so I should probably read it. But anyway, yeah, I've gone through this watch. I replaced the battery, which is actually kind of hard, because it's like a cage that covers the battery and keeps it pinned down, which I could not figure out how to get off. Had to YouTube that one. But there were like quite a few screws I had to take out of this case. I'm not a watchmaker. I have some precision screwdrivers, that's how I did it. But it was like quite a little undertaking for me to organize all the screws, make sure I didn't lose any, and I didn't lose any. I'm pretty proud of that. There's some really, okay, what I think are small screws. I'm not a watchmaker. And then I got this new strap for it, which I'm really happy with, because when I got it, it came with, I'm gonna see if I can find a photo of it, because it's quite interesting. It came on, firstly an 18mm, because that's the lug size, like colored NATO strap. It was like red with a blue stripe or something. Interesting look for the watch. NATO straps are definitely tool straps. And it was just a NATO strap. It wasn't like a fancy adapter, which I know some people get for, especially the square G-Shocks that you can get. And the lug clearance on this is next to nothing, because it's just designed for the proprietary straps, really. So it was like, you couldn't pull the NATO through, you had to like pin it down with the spring bars. So I took it off that and again, cleaned everything. That strap must be at home. I can probably get that. It's probably in my strap box at home, which is a mess. But this is great now. It looks like a G-Shock again, I think, because It's got the flared strap, of course, that actually meets up with the case. Annoyingly, I didn't get the actual OEM strap. I couldn't find one, or I was too lazy, or it might have been too expensive. This was just a cheap Chinese one. It should have text here, which says like water resist 100 meters world time or something on like the top and bottom, which this doesn't have, which is a shame. But it kind of just looks quite clean now, so I'm not angry at it. And this isn't weirdly a watch I'm gonna wear much. I'll put it on my wrist now, because I have thin wrists, about 6.5 inches last time I measured, and this pretty much just fills it. I think I can pull it off if I'm doing really tall watch stuff, but I'm not really into the black case, black strap look. I like the silver bezel on this one. You'll know I'm a fan of silver bezels if you've seen my SKX. But the other issue is I do have my SKX. I also have, like right here, I have my SKX 013, which is currently actually on the rubber strap. It's normally on this bracelet. And this is kind of my go-to tool watch. And if not this, then my CWC G10 kind of does the job. And the CWC G10 is also quartz, like the G-Shock, so it's always the correct time. And I don't really use the extra functions of the G-Shock. And I'm not traveling, so I don't need the world time function at the moment. But it's a great watch to have. I think I'm probably going to keep it about as kind of more of a display piece. I'm normally pretty strongly against, well, I'm strongly against not wearing watches. I think if you own a watch, you should wear it. Probably going to be my least worn watch. And I'm normally also against displaying a watch because I think it can look kind of douchey and opulent. This is the type of thing where I would have it on like a display stand on my desk or something like that. It would be really cool because I'm not going to wear it much. It would be really cool to have it on a stand and just have it as a digital clock with the day and date. That I think is something I definitely like to do with it. But this is a watch I'm happy I have. It just doesn't get worn. So I'm going to look into, if you have any suggestions of how I could display it. I know there's like those kind of stands that make your watch look like it floats with like an arm coming in the side. I really like those. Maybe once I have a more permanent desk setup. This isn't my flat I'm recording in. Yeah, so there's this one. There's also this, which is pretty different, but also quartz, which is similar. It's a kinetic movement, but this one has a bit more of a story behind it. So really funky, interesting case design. And this was my dad's, so my granddad's son, that same side of the family, and the one who now has the Bremel MB2, which is very cool. But he gave me this watch, actually, he lent it to me. And it wasn't like I asked him, it wasn't anything. I was going on like a summer camp between year 11 in the UK and college. And that was me being away for a few weeks, I think in Devon. We're going to do lots of sports and stuff. And I'd just gotten, that year I think, my Fossil Defender, and the battery had died on it. Maybe it's 2 years old if the battery died, to be fair. I don't think it died first year. But it died and it had gone off to the watchmaker to get a new battery. And I was pretty upset because I kind of just caught the watch bug, was used to wearing the watch. It was a dive watch and a NATO strap, so I've always loved NATO straps. So he lent me this, which I guess I just bonded with that week. It's really beat up, which is part of the reason he didn't mind me taking it on a camp. I might have even surfed in this thing. I really did just beat on it. It does have a screw down crown, but it's a funky watch. It's actually got a really long lug to lug because the end link here kind of doesn't conform too much. But it's a small enough face that it does fit my wrist and I really enjoy it. It's kind of that weird, comfy, like, design, and it's just so good. Like no other watch I'll have feels like this. It's kinetic movement, which I have a real soft spot for now. I've actually just bought another white dial kinetic, this one. See both pretty funky designs. And I think this watch is the reason why I like kinetic movements, because I felt the rotor for the first time. This is before I owned an automatic. And it had a really nice rotating bezel, which probably needs cleaning, actually. I'm gonna put this in for a full service soon. The crystal is, I'll get some close-up shots. The crystal is really pretty beat up. It's missing some of the paint from the bezel. It's pretty common on an old beat up watch. but it's running fine. The dial and hands are great. Don't think it's ever had any water or anything in it. There's no patina on the dial. So I think as soon as I swap that crystal, it's going to look awesome. The design is definitely funky. I've already mentioned the case and how the bezel here kind of meets up with these cutouts in the case. It's really interesting. Same with this end link here. And yeah, I really like this. Skeleton hands. It has a weird silver disc of metal, which I haven't really seen on many other watches. It's a cool little design thing, but it is funny because you check the time and you literally, I can see myself in it now. It's that high polish. So this is definitely an interesting watch, and actually one I'll wear much more than the G-Shock. Because it's quartz kinetic, it's pretty grab and go. It's one of the things I like about kinetic watches. Although it's not holding enough power reserve at the moment, so it's doing the double tick thing. I don't know if that's just because I haven't worn it enough. I've tried wearing this for like 2 days in a row and it hasn't changed, so I wonder if the battery's just not holding enough power. Anyway, this I'm really happy to have. Again, not an expensive watch, probably more than the G-Shock, just because G-Shocks are, especially common ones like this, are really, really common. But this is a piece I love. And interestingly, or I think, my CWC is very similar to both these watches. And that's kind of what I mean by these being 3 generations of watches, and probably watches that I'll hand down to my kid. Because we've talked about this on the podcast before, but this CWC is probably what I will give to my slightly irresponsible teenager who needs a watch to beat up. But I find it interesting that there's kind of the similarity of them all being quartz. I find it kind of funny, my granddad had the most complicated, my dad had the second most complicated with just a date function, and I just have a time only watch. But I just really love this trio, and they're so diverse, but all just great grab and go beta watches, which I'm so happy to have in my collection, especially when I get to wearing the Seiko more. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, tell me about your watches, or your, I guess inherited is kind of the right word, watches, or hand-me-down watches. Hand-me-down watches is probably a better term for it. But anyway, tell me about those down in the comments. Maybe tag me in your photos on Instagram. My Instagram is @sammil.s. Rerun is @rerunwatches, real simple. Like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. I'm going to do a video on this kinetic and my new kinetic, which is very nice and very much better condition, shall we say. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.
Until the world